Welcome back to the dopest show you won't get sick of. I'm Spencer. This is Sasha. Spent most of my 20s in federal prison, but I've been off heroin since April 9, 2010. I've got a lot of stories about the stupid stuff I did to get put in prison. I've also got a lot of stories about the crazy stuff that happened while I was in prison. And God forbid you end up in prison. You won't make some of the same mistakes I made. So, oh Lord, when you get out of prison, don't find the first girl that falls in front of you. And if you're just getting out of a federal prison and you're in a federal halfway house, man, you might run into some crazy people that were into some heavy stuff. Okay, first off, before I start this, I'm happily with my fiance now for 5 years, and she was my high school crush. Never liked me in high school because I was a drug dealer. She was a straight A track star. Wanted nothing to do with me. If you told us we didn't see each other 15 years, and how we've been together for 5, if you told us 5 years ago we'd be together, or I'd say 6 or 7 years ago, if you told us we'd be together today, I'd say, I wish, and she'd say, yeah, right. But it worked out, and I've never been happier. It is the happiest I've ever been in my life. So I need to say that out of respect for my fiance before I tell this story about this crazy hood rat cartel drug dealing girl. Okay, so this is some pretty wild stuff. When you go to federal prison, almost everybody goes to a halfway house upon release. It comes off your sentence. So if you refuse halfway house, you're an idiot. You should never refuse halfway house. Some people are like, oh, it's a trick up, it's a trick up. They got too many rules. They got rules in prison. You're around a bunch of swinging, stinking nuts all day. And I mean, you could be around girls, which you ain't seen in a decade. So why is nothing worth putting up with to be free? A few rules? I mean, come on. But there are so many people that say that stupid stuff. But a lot of them still take it anyway. So I did the rdap drug program, which took a year off my sentence. If you do the rdap drug program, you're required to get 4 months halfway house. They have to give it to you because you have to do 4 months of aftercare while in the halfway house. I spent 6 months in the halfway house. I was given 4 months, but they made me stay for 6 months. They illegally held me for 2 months. And my probation didn't start till 2 months later, so I'm just now getting off probation. Illegally, I was doing an extra 2 months, but I knew, what was I going to do in 2 months? I'm not doing anything wrong. But anyway, I didn't mind because there was a world champion Brazilian Jiu-jitsu teacher that gave me a chance. Other Jiu-jitsu schools in the area all said, no, we can't help you out. I couldn't go to any of those places. When you're in the halfway house, before you get you're able to go somewhere or do something like that, they're counselors. There's about 3 counselors. The counselor has to approve it. They give you so many hours out that you can spend there and so many hours to get back. They figure in bus time, and if you're not back on time, you're in deep trouble. They might call the U.S. Marshals on you if you piss them off and you're out too long. So it's a matter of going back to prison. So my mom is the best mom on the planet. My mom came to see me 3 days a week. She drove 4.5 hours round trip 3 days a week to take me to my aftercare drug class, which was 3 days a week, and we'd go get something to eat. Now, they factor in the time, how long you spend out. I'd tell them I was taking the bus. That way they'd give me 6 hours out. But I'd walk down the street and my mom pick me up, okay? It only took 10 minutes to get there, drug class. That gave us 3-4 hours to just go eat and have time with my mom. My mom is the best mom on the planet. Like, me and my sister, she's willing to do that. Drive 4.5 hours 3 times a week. She's got a small business that depends on her being there. Its success depends on her being there. And she's taken the time to do that because we hadn't been able to see each other in that many years. And I really appreciate my mom for that. And, even with, driving me in this hood rat around sometimes, my mom was good enough to do that. She figured, well, she's been in prison that long, but I'm going to get to how I met this girl. So, I pretty much just went to jiu-jitsu, trained lunch for 2 hours and a private lesson. Then I trained in the evening 2 hours, and I hung out alone at the gym. Hannah and Lonnie, these 2 wonderful people. Hannah gave me a chance, and Paulo Santana gave me a chance. They signed a piece of paper saying that I'd be allowed to train at this gym, and luckily, Paulo Santana is a world champion, 2-time Pan American champion, 2-time Brazilian national champion. That's like getting the gold medal in something in the Olympics. To win the gold medal in Brazil, at the Brazilian Nationals, in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I mean, he's the best. He's 140 pounds. I watch him tap out 220-pound brown belts multiple times per round. He's that good. And I got lucky. He became a good friend, like a brother. Since my rotator cuff's been injured, I've been doing these videos. It's giving me time to really jumpstart this thing, and it's giving me something to put my energy into, because jiu-jitsu training obsessively is what's helped keep me off of dope. And if I don't have something to put my time and, you know, everything into obsessively, it puts me in a very bad place. So I'm just mostly going there and back, but I have to go to these 3 drug groups. And, in my room, when we first got there, the rules were lax. You'd have PS3s and stuff until they found out those had internet and that we were logging on and getting on Facebook. You had to use their computers in the computer lab. You weren't allowed to have Facebook. You couldn't have a camera on your phone. You had to have a basic flip phone and turn it in every night. People snuck in iPhones. People snuck in everything. But I snuck in an iPad. Now, this iPad had data on it, cellular data. So it had a cellular plan. So all the people in the halfway house, they would change the Wi-Fi code every 2 weeks, so then they couldn't get on their iPhones. I had cellular data, so I could get on my iPad at any time. You were allowed to have a portable DVD player, so I got a portable flip DVD player with an iPad that was the same width and diameter exactly of the screen. So I propped it up on the portable DVD player, and I watched it. I bought UFC fights and everything on this iPad. I'm watching them I never left the room when I was at home. Shoot, I had that. They were all complaining about the Wi-Fi password. I didn't have to worry about that. Now, how I snuck it in. Every Friday they'd have a fight, or Saturday they'd have a fight. Bellator Friday, UFC Saturday. I'm a smuggler, okay? I've been smuggling since I was a child. Anywhere $6,000 to $20,000. I was driving back and forth when I was 16. Thought I was cool. Thought I was one of the guys. I was getting used, but I got pretty crafty at ideas. Now, sometimes how I got the iPad in specifically was I would buy everybody pizza. I bought 5 Little Caesars pizzas. And I took the iPad, put it in a bag, I put it underneath the 4th pizza down. They opened up the top one, checked to see there wasn't nothing in it, sent it on back, and got my iPad out. There were a number of other, just whatever. For some reason I went to chewing tobacco for a while in that. I got takeout food from a Chinese restaurant, and I took out half the rice, and I buried a thing of chewing tobacco and put the rice back over it. They always open it, but they rarely, they started getting a little more thorough. I was getting good at the smuggling in there. Nothing illegal to the law, but illegal to the halfway house rules. So anyway, there's this girl, I see her in the hallway one day. She looks actually remarkably close to the girl in the thumbnail. At least that's how she looked at that time when I first met her. And so I see her, we make eye contact, and the girls and guys are separated in the halfway house, but we eat in the same kitchen. You're not allowed to talk to the girls. You're not allowed to sit next to them. Some you could sit next, but you couldn't sit like right up on them, and you couldn't be seen talking to them. The council get on you quick about that. And the guys' side was huge. It was half of the Salvation Army was for the Salvation Army, half was for the halfway house. We never had any interaction with them. We had to be out of the way when they went in the kitchen. We weren't allowed to go in the kitchen when we were in there. Then once they were out, we'd be allowed to roam back through. The guys' side had 2 sides, all kinds of stuff. The girls just had this one little small area that the people, the counselor, the people who worked there could oversee. So there's a guy who is in the room next to me. I've become friends with. Big time speed smuggler. You'd never guess it out of this guy. I mean, he seems like the biggest dork on the planet, but he was actually doing stuff for real. And he got a girlfriend in there on that side of the building. Well, this girl who I saw, the Mexican girl, passed this guy's girlfriend a note to give to him, to give to me, asking if I'd like to talk. And I was like, of course. I've been in prison for 5 years, and you don't look awful like everybody else in here that's been busted right in the mouth with a crack rock 10,000 times over until they look like they got meth mouth. So yeah, of course, with any conversation, there's that honeymoon phase where both people are just so happy, and it just seems like you just have everything in common. And when you really look back on it, you didn't have anything in common. You just thought each other looked good, and you're agreeing with stuff you wouldn't agree with normally. And then whenever that veil falls, which I'm just me, I'm just myself. So I'm talking about jiu-jitsu. She's pretending to care, and she's talking about, oh, that's awesome, and she didn't think it's awesome. And after a week or two, I start to realize she's crazy. She's possessive. She's like starting fights on the phone and like, oh, what'd you mean by that? And I'm not used to fighting. I'm not used to doing that. Like, I'm like, whoa, like chill out. Like what just happened? And like she'd go ghetto on me. I'm like, what I do? And it would be stuff that wouldn't even mean anything. And I'm a friendly person, okay? And there was this new girl that got there, who was standing in line for the kitchen, and sometimes to eat. And I'm standing next to this girl, this Spanish girl. We'll call her Mexi. That was one of her nicknames, actually. Mexi. She was standing beside me. There's this other girl to the left of me. She probably about 35, blonde hair, and like missing half of every other tooth, and it's like black on half every other tooth where it's rotten. I figured, shoot, she isn't talking to anybody. Nobody's wanting to be friends. I said, "Oh, you're just getting here?" I said, "It's not too bad. It'll grow." I said, "You'll meet some people. It'll be all right." Just trying to say something of encouragement. I'm a nice person. When I see somebody upset, I've never cheated on a girl in my life, and I'm generally really am a nice person. I've never been rude to anybody at like a gas station, a restaurant. If somebody's rude to a waiter at a restaurant, I will leave. I'll say something in front of them. Like, I'm not with that. And there was just genuinely trying to say something nice to make this girl feel better. Well, I found out that Maxie went crazy on her back in their bunks and stuff. Like, cussed her out, like got up in her face, pushed her, and everything else. And I heard about it, but not from her. See, that's the type of person she was too, which that never made sense to me either. She thought that I was flirting with. What I literally said was, "It's not so bad. You'll make friends in time. It gets better." I said I didn't like it either when I first got here, and I still don't like it too much, but it's not as bad now. And the girl smiled. She said, "Well, thank you so much." That's literally all that happened. And I asked her, I said, "Did you go?" And she said, "Yes." I said, "She's busted. She looks like she's been living on the street since she was 8 years old. I mean, have you seen? She looks like a jack-o'-lantern. And, I mean, she got hard lines in her face. What is wrong with you? Do you think that I'm, what?" And then she, like, "Well, I don't know." And went back and forth. And I said, "You sounded like a hood rat." And I said it just like that. She started going, and she said, "Don't call me that." And then everything changed. Okay. It just kept progressively getting more weird and more worse, but it gets really crazy here in a second. Spoiler alert, STD scare. It's a funny story. But so you start knowing people the more time you've been around them, right? And she asked me what time it was one time. I think we were at the drug room, and I hold up my watch. She said, "Don't play." And I said, "I'm not playing. It's my watch." I said, "It's the time. You asked for the time." And I'm like, "Do you not know how to tell time on a regular watch?" And she didn't. She didn't know how to tell time on a regular watch. Now, let me explain what this girl got caught with. She got caught with 8 kilos of ice, of crystal. Okay? High-speed chase, everything else, a whole lot of money. And then in jail, I don't know the circumstances fully behind it, but there was an issue with a guard, inappropriate stuff. She sued them successfully, got out, supposed to get her sister some time off, and had some interesting conversations. Found she was pretty deep in cartel-related stuff. Her sister's boyfriend was like the guy, and he made it back to Mexico. He didn't get prosecuted. And they tried to get him to come back across the border in exchange to give them some time off, but they wouldn't sign anything before he did it, so he refused. So he still escaped. She got caught, her sister got caught, they got all tied up. And they end up having to do some Fed time. I think she told, being honest, given the amount it is, because I've known people who've got time for crystal before, and it's a lot. And she only got like 5 years, and I mean, for 8 bricks of crystal, I've known a guy that got caught with, a half pound that got 20 years. But anyway, guy got across the border, nobody got caught, whatever. I think she might have said something about he told them to tell on him or something. I can't remember the exact specific of that, but how she ended up getting really hooked into his organization. He did something, she did something that kind of like, I guess, impressed him, that she stood up to him. In Mexico, there are certain cities that are overrun by cartels. Like, cartels just completely own them. There are road checks, like you'd see with police officers here in the States, that are cartel members saying, "Who are you? What are you doing here?" And her sister wanted to go out, wanted to shop, wanted to do stuff, and she said she wasn't allowed, that he didn't like her going out. She said, "Screw that, come on." They got in the car, went on, did their thing, outran some of the people that were supposed to be watching. Said next thing they know, they got pulled over by 2 trucks with guys that have, those heavy choppers, can't say certain words on here, looks like a SWAT team in the back of 2 old trucks that block her off. She's driving a Dodge Charger. And he knocks on the window with a piece. Says, "Why did you do it?" She says, "She wanted to go out. It's BS. She wouldn't let her go out, so I took her out. What's your problem?" And something about that got his attention. They ended up connecting a little bit, and she went on to deal in a whole bunch of it for him. And yeah, so had some pretty wild and crazy connections and stories. And anyway, there was another time. There was another story. Okay, so you've been in prison for 5 years. Like I said, I'm happily with my fiance right now, but I do have some funny stories, and I'm telling them now. I asked for her permission to tell these stories beforehand, just out of respect for her, because that's it only felt right. But there was a time where, like, basically it was like whoop whoop time, and I was at the jiu-jitsu place. Apparently didn't have class that day. She'd called. She's like, "Well, you want to go to a hotel?" I'm like, "Yes." So I call. I can't get an Uber to come, so I end up having to call a taxi. Some guy picks us up, drops us off at the place, and we I can't remember what the circumstance was of going back to the front desk, but we went there first. We went to the drug group, which was an hour, and since we said we took the bus, we had 3 hours to get back. So we went back. When we showed back up, I might have lost the card or something. The little Indian man at the front said, "The police are looking for you." I said, "Why?" He says, "This is something about the stolen car." I said, "You're messing with me." He said, "No, I'm serious. I have to call them." And I said, "Man," and I said, "That's impossible." I said, "I've been to and from a group." I said, "I can prove every second." I said, "You got the wrong." And he's like, "Are you sure?" And I had, my story was so good, he believed me. But I'm like, "What are you talking about, man? You got the wrong person here." I thought he was messing with me. And went back to the room. We look out the window. There are literally like 15 cops. There's a CSI van and everything at this hotel. And somehow, I don't know my description, what it was. I didn't get questioned. I don't know how. The rest of those few hours, they weren't very good few hours. We ended up getting out of there. I don't know how nothing happened. But anyway, you have to turn your phone in at the halfway house every night, 9 o'clock. You have to have a flip phone. Can't have a camera for the privacy of the people because it's shared with the Salvation Army. You never see the Salvation Army people, but whatever. When I got my phone the next morning, the very second I turned it on and powered it on, it's her calling. Like, the second I turned it on. Like, she must have just been dialing, hanging up, until I turned it on. I said, "Hello?" And she said, "You gave me an STD, you mother." And I said, "That's impossible." I said, "That's the only person I've been with has been out of prison. The only girl I've been with, the only person I've been with at all in 5-6 years. How was that possible? I wouldn't do that to you anyway. I've never cheated on anyone in my life." And apparently, after I hung up the phone, her mom was on a three-way phone listening to me, and her mom says, "I don't know. He sounds kind of convincing." And something that was with her, I didn't have enough self-respect for myself. After my hussy ex, the one that I was with for 4 years of my prison sentence that did me very wrong, I didn't have a lot of self-respect for myself. So she said that she wanted to, the Mexi girl, wanted to mess around with girls. And I thought, well, it's not a guy, okay, I guess I can handle that. And I still didn't like it, though, but I should have more self-respect for myself and spoke up. But I think it might have got from that. But anyway, my dad, awkward as anything, I call my family, I'm like, I don't know what to do. So I pretended like I was going to jiu-jitsu. My dad picks me up, we go to the doctor, they look at my junk, they do some tests on me, and they're like, "Dude, you don't got anything." And so I go back to the halfway house, and I'm like, "I don't know who you got it from, but it wasn't me. I'm clean." And yeah, had some conversations and stuff like that after that with her. But basically the whole theme of this whole thing is, when you've been in prison for a long time, when you haven't been around a girl for a long time, do not pick the first one when you get out and just fall in love. I've seen so many people get married within 3 to 6 months of getting out of prison. If I had done that and I hadn't ended up with Casey, who is perfect for me, our personalities, everything match, I would be miserable. I would never be as happy as I am right now. So if you've gotten out of a long-term relationship, take your time. That was something with me. Like when me and my hussy ex broke up in prison, I was in prison. I couldn't go find a new girl, and I'm not into the punks. So my best thing was a stack of magazines that you had to keep hitting because they weren't allowed. That's the only option for people that are in prison. It's the only option for me. But anyway, I got my mom put me on prison pen pals, and I started writing a girl from there. And it went pretty well until I learned she was in prison for sneaking her ex drugs in her baby's diaper, and then I had to quit talking to her. That was too much. She snuck drugs in her baby's diaper into the prison for us while she was doing time. That's too much. You know what I mean? Forget how good anybody. That was too much. I had to quit talking to that girl. But it was just like so desperate to find a new one after I was done with an old one. Yeah. So take your time. It all ends up working out, and it usually happens when you're least looking for it, when you're least expecting it. You know, and my story with Casey, I'll tell that another day, but I rescued her from a very bad situation where she was more or less brainwashed. And, you know, it's a wild story, but I pretty much saved her. And it led to us running around. Literally, I had to keep her in hiding for a couple of months, a few different places, worried about, you know, somebody angry and somebody trying to do something, other people being put to try to do something about it. But I said, no. I said, that's the final time. You're never getting hurt again. And I said, you'll never ever get hurt again, and she won't. You know, that's one thing. I don't like that stuff. There isn't any reason for that. Everything that her ex hated about her goofiness, her silliness, her funniness, are the things that I love most about her. And that tells me, it's just, and every time that, you know, she was my ride, because I didn't have a license for my first like 3 years I got out, so that was the excuse. But every time she left, I'd keep it together as I was waving at her, and as soon as she round the corner, and I'd cry like a little bitch. And it was embarrassing. I'd cry. I'm like, it sucks. And little did I know that the whole time that once we'd started, you know, that she'd quit relations with her ex. And I didn't believe that till I saw it on her phone afterwards. But yeah, she's telling the truth. And she was just waiting for me to say, I want to be with you. Leave him. And I thought, she's been married to this guy for 10 years. She's going. If I ask for too much, she's going to tell me, you got to go. I'm married. You know, this ain't going to work. And I just said, I'd rather just keep it. I'd rather just keep this time going nice while it's going instead of ruin it. But I should have said, listen, come with me. We'll be the happiest we've ever been. And shit, I'm going to fucking cry. Sorry, I don't cuss a lot on here, but I do have some regrets with that, because she went through some pretty awful stuff, especially that last day. Anyway, if you liked the video, I think I earned it, press the like button. I'm sorry I'm getting all bitchy. And I'm sorry I cussed like 5 times in a row. I never do that. If you liked it, press the like button. If not, that is 23 minutes and 13 seconds of your life in which you'll never get back. I've been terribly sick the last 2 days, which is why I put up that video yesterday, which was driving around. I didn't sleep for 2 days. I've been in so much pain, completely deaf in my right ear from sinus infection. I don't know. So, sorry. I'll have video something every day, and that's a good one that I've been holding back. I was nervous to put that one up for some reason. I talk a little bit bluntly in that about how I think about things. But, you know, it's just been a rough past couple days. Sorry for not answering as many comments, too, because I'm usually really good about that. I've still answered a good many, but it's been a rough past couple days. Like, it's been the most physical symptoms of sick that I've ever been. And, you know, even through this, I probably sound like Barney the dinosaur or some stupid stuff like that. You know, if my nose stopped up, blow my nose every 5 minutes. I have to use like half a bottle of Afrin and blow my nose 5 times and hope that I can do this on here without it going crazy again. Anyway, if you liked the video, press the like button. Thank you guys for being here with me. If you're new, welcome. If you've been here for a long time, thank you. As things going, it's already up past 10,100. It's just steadily going, and it's because of y'all. And you know, if you see somebody in the comment section that's going through it, whatever it may be, this is not a place for douchebags. It's just going to troll, talk crap to each other. If you got something helpful to say to somebody, let them know about it. I try to do it. If you go through some of the comments, I write probably annoyingly long, detailed responses about addiction and other stuff. But, you know, I'd like this to be a place that could help people. And, you know, I really mean that. Y'all have a good one.